Hello, this is Don Victor, author of Drawn to Win, host of the podcast Drawn to Win, the director of the Academy of Composition, and the creator of the Core 80 Experience, also known as the See and Grow Rich in Art video course, which you can find out more information at core80.com. This is the Drawn to Win podcast, where I have the incredible privilege to draw artists from around the world into fun and meaningful conversations around art and life, and yes, maybe even a little food. You can hear us each week on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. So make sure you subscribe so you always have a seat among friends. Let's get into the show. So, Donna, tell us, what are you currently working on right now?
I have two projects I'm working on. One is a commissioned portrait of a woman who is deceased, and I'm working from an old photograph of her. This has been commissioned by her husband, who is 90 years old and blind. And my second project is a project non-commissioned, and it is a kind of a landscape building subject of a very well-known establishment at the Jersey Shore called the Parker House. And the Parker House is an old Victorian building that generations of families, but particularly young singles, like to go in the summertime for a drink and to meet up. And I was told actually by a businesswoman who has a shop in a nearby town that so many people come in and they look for, or they want, paintings of this building because that is where they met their husband. Oh. And she said, "Oh boy, that would sell like hotcakes." And that was the beginning of that painting.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. Very cool. So you almost done with it?
I am. I would say halfway through.
Okay, nice.
It has been a plotting, careful process involving photographs and research, photographs of the building, photographs from Google Images of people walking and doing different things to really try to capture the life and the lifestyles of the Jersey Shore in the summertime.
Nice. Beautiful. So, Donna, before you started this project, tell us your story. Like, how did you get to this point where you're working on this cool painting for the Parker House, or not for the Parker House, but of the Parker House, and doing these commissions? Like, you first of all, you consider yourself professionally as a portrait artist, correct?
Yes. I graduated from Rhode Island School of Design, and I worked very hard there. But upon graduation, I didn't feel in my gut that I had the knowledge or the confidence to do the art at the level that I felt I would have to do. However, I persisted. I took some more classes in the city, and I started walking around New York City, pounding the pavement with my portfolio, and then going to classes in the evening. And I felt actually most accepted, and I enjoyed for a while children's books because it was a large body of work in which there would be a series of images. And I illustrated two children's books published by Simon & Schuster, and one with William Morrow. And it was in the third book, in which it was a Victorian story, in which I painted as many as 150 different individual little watercolor portraits in this book. People posed for me. I took their picture, and then I worked from that photographic material. And I did a very realistic looking book. Now, I'm not saying it was the best design book, because that was the problem. I wasn't taught design at ISD. I was taught more just focusing on rendering as the armature for making something great. But now I know there's much more, and it starts with design before you ever get to a rendering. In any case, it was in that book I said to myself, gee, I'm kind of wearing the children's books, and I could make very little money on it. But I'm never tired of studying the face.
Mm.
And yes, and so that was when it sprung to my mind that really what I wanted to do was portraits of children and people in oil, and to go return back to like a fine art um, format for my work. And so I started that by contacting a local frame art shop, and we made an agreement that I would have a portfolio of my work. They would advertise, and about 20 people came in on a Sunday to look at my work, and I offered a $75 drawing from their photograph.
Mm.
So suddenly I had about 20 people, a whole line of people, to begin my development of portraiture. And as I was doing these drawings, I couldn't help myself. I said, gee, if I only put a little pink, maybe a little pink paint for those lips and those cheeks, because sometimes I've seen that done, a little color added, that would make it better. And I'm like, no, I need to add a little more color there. And I ended up, for $75, doing a oil study on paper, like a full-blown painting.
Mm-hmm.
And my boyfriend at the time, who later became my fiance, and then my husband, said to me, Donna, you're doing a lot of work. Why don't you say to these people, if you want me to do an oil study, hop it up to $150. They can do the pencil drawing for $75 or the oil for $150. And so I did several for $150, and they were successful. And I took pictures of them. And then for the next person on that list, my husband said, well, wait a minute, offer it to them for $300. So now I was making $300.
Wow. That's awesome.
And then from that, word spread, and other people called. And my boyfriend, who at that point became my fiance, said, Donna, why don't we up it up to $450 for that? And I started selling work at $450. And then every once in a while, he would go to the computer and print out a new price list. And sometimes he didn't even tell me. He would just up the price. And within about 5 years from that point, maybe 6, I was doing work at $3,000, $5,000, $7,000. I've actually did a beautiful painting. Client was very, very pleased. It was a very well orchestrated project for $17,000. So it all started from the $75 drawing.
Wow, that's amazing. That was done in about a 6-year span?
Yeah, and within about a 6-year span,
Wow.
I got up to there. Now, you'll ask, well, how did you get your clients? And what I did was I would go door to door in the town that I grew up in, which is a very beautiful town at the shore in New Jersey. And I would knock on the door, and they would open it up. I would put my foot in between the screen door, and I'd flash my portfolio. And I said, I'm a portrait artist, and this is my work. And people would say, oh, yeah, I want that. And they'd call me up, and I would proceed with the portrait commission. Or I would be at the pool in the town, the public pool, and I would see a good-looking, well-heeled couple by the baby pool. And I stepped into the pool, and I gave the husband my card. And it took them a while to decide what age that little boy in the pool they wanted to capture. But I think it was about 6 years later, that was my $17,000 painting.
Wow, really?
Yes.
That's an incredible story. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
You were a hustling it, girl.
Yes.
That's amazing. Love that. Love that. So, wow, that's really brilliant. That's brilliant. So how did you get started? Like, you started this story with going to RISD, but like, what was like pre-college Donna and art like? Like,
I'm happy that you asked me, because my friends were very bookish people.
We're
And
very what?
bookish, meaning they were really focused on their academic grades.
Oh, focused. Okay.
Focused, and they focused on math and science.
Hmm.
And I was following suit. I didn't take an art class until my junior year of college. High school, excuse me, high school. High school, because I thought, oh no, I don't want to waste my high school days in art. I do my art on my own at my kitchen table. And how good could their art class be? I actually said to myself. So I tortured myself with subjects that I didn't really enjoy, with math and science. And it wasn't until my junior year, as science and math became much more advanced with trigonometry and then calculus and like advanced chemistry, I said, I have my limit. I want nothing more to do with those things, but I can't get enough of this art. Next year, my senior year, I'm going to take as many art classes as I can, which is 2. And I'm not going to go. I can't stand taking tests and doing all academic work. I'm not going to apply to any college. I'm only going to art schools. I heard there's something about an art school, like art colleges, as an alternative. And that was exactly what I did.
That's amazing. Awesome. So now, Donna, project yourself, say, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 10 years from now. Where do you envision that Donna being, and what is she doing?
I believe and I hope, I pray that in 5 to 10 years, I have a more sophisticated grasp on the most essential and the most challenging for me at this point, which is design and storytelling, to bring that very deep meaning in the very beginning of a painting into embed the proper spirit of what the message is in the painting in the very beginning, and then building upon it from there, so that I do great work, and that people respond to it because of that design, and that it will just naturally bring me a comfortable stream of clients. I'm 57 years old, and you don't always have the same energy you did when you were 22. So I'm happy just making carefully crafted, quality pieces of work. Don't have to produce. I really don't expect myself to produce 30 pieces in a year. I'm looking for quality over quantity, and I'm looking for a balanced life. When I was in college, I was a workaholic. I would stay up all night, at least one night. I tried for 2 nights a week, and that was a very unhealthy choice. But I was searching so deeply to improve. I thought that was what you had to do as an artist. And now I know actually what you need to do is to be interacting with great teachers such as yourself, Victor, in the Academy of Composition. And that when you have the tools of knowledge, you can achieve what you want to achieve in a very smoother progression. And in the end, you win with a great piece of art that will resonate with many people.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. When you were saying that, I just kept getting this vision in my head of people dancing, and your ability to draw and paint is like dancing. It's the physical action, let's say, but the design and storytelling is the music. So without the dance changes. I mean, it's very difficult to dance without music, right?
Yes.
And so first hearing the music and learning how to get in tune with that story, and then being able to design it, which is really the transferring of that music into the dance.
And Victor, I would actually say choreography.
Oh, there, it's beautiful. All right, that's a more sophisticated word. But yeah, that's exactly right. Is the choreography? Yeah, beautiful, Donna. So, as a portrait painter, let me ask you, if you were going to give some advice to someone, what's something that you like would share with them, either a tip, a trick, advice, insight into, you know, doing a really incredible portrait?
Well, first of all, I kind of want to back into this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best advice is to really feel in your gut what inspires you. What is going to inspire you enough to struggle and struggle more than you want to struggle many times. And for some people, they find the great beauty and even the human spirit in landscape. It could be the country, it could be a cityscape. For myself, I love the human face, the soul, the expression of the human face and the human figure. And it's personal. And it's one of the hardest things to do. I mean, I can slave over a painting, trying to get that nuance where until I feel as if that mouth is going to open and say something to me, not right. And you can go back and forth on it. And so I think the most essential thing, no matter what your subject is to really get a sense of what is it in a subject that makes you want to stand there and struggle. And then you start to figure out, I think, from there, what is it that you want to say with the landscape? And then how do you bring that design into what you're trying to say?
That's awesome. Let's have a quick conversation about struggle. You're not the first person that I've heard talk about that. Now, you're one of the first people I've heard about it in art, but in different aspects of life, there's a belief that, if you're not struggling, it's not going to be great. And so I'm kind of curious, in your mind, what do you mean by struggle, and like, what does that look like? Like,
Yeah. I can share because I've been working at art. So let's say I went to college almost at the age of 18, and now I'm 57. I'll be 58, in about 5 months. And gosh, so that's 40 years. 40 years of struggle. And the struggle is the struggle in trying to reach a goal, a high level of art that in your mind's eye, you see. The struggle is also in being humble enough to say, no, I need to remain the student and learn the basics of design, color. It could be perspective, and doing that kind of schoolwork. The struggle is in putting all this information together. The struggle is also in making a living out of this, and the stress of pleasing the client, or if you are not working with the client, bringing your work to the public and working through a gallery and putting it all out there. And it could flop, it could succeed to some level, or it could be a great success. All of those things for me create a certain amount of anxiety. And anxiety for me is pain and it's struggle. And you want to overcome all those things so that you're in command of what you're doing, and so that you can live a respectable and healthy life, just like your plumber lives, just like the doctor or the I don't want to say politician, but like people in government and people who have steady jobs in which they are blessed within a job, receiving a paycheck, receiving the benefits. This is what artists do not receive. They often are blessed with training on the job, and they're blessed with a certain security within that business or framework. We don't have that, and there's struggle in that.
Mm. That's awesome. Um, what's as an artist, what's a struggle, an inner struggle that you're dealing with in terms of the artwork itself?
I think there's always an inner struggle of a negative message in my head that I'm not going to succeed at something
Mm.
until it's really right. It's wrong. And I think that's a shame. I think that really goes back to test anxiety when I was a child. I never felt that no matter how much I studied, I really understood. And I think, unfortunately, I was studying things that I wasn't meant to be studying to such a degree because none of it really stuck. I just memorized and then I forgot it. So I never really felt like I mastered any of those subjects I put so much emphasis into.
Mm.
So in a way, I really almost need art therapy to put aside those childish anxieties and really put my trust in God that He gave me a mission or a vocation. And that, excuse me.
Yep.
And that He will help me succeed at all good endeavors. And I think that must be the spirit we should have about our good work.
Yep. That's awesome. There's this little thing that I often do when facing certain issues inside my head. And you said, there's this fear that it's not going to be great, right?
Yes.
And so one thing that I do is I often separate myself from my thoughts, realizing that not every thought comes from me, right? That they're thoughts that pass through me that aren't mine, but the deception is that they are. And so by separating the two, it allows me a buffer to then question if it's me, if it's not me, and if it's not me, what am I going to do with it? This voice, this extra energy that's floating in my head. And one strategy that I'll employ, and you could take this and use it as well, is if something says, okay, well, this is not going to be great, then one option is you own that thought. You say, okay, this is not going to be great. I'm saying this is not going to be great. Therefore, what I'm saying is I'm not great, or I might fail at this, right? Blah, blah, blah. But if you separate it and you hear the voice and it says this is not going to be great, that's a fear. And so then you can ask a simple question. What is the fear afraid of? Why is the fear afraid that I'm going to be great at this? Does that make sense? Like, it's terrified that you're going to succeed at it. So it's trying to sabotage you by saying, oh, you're not going to be great at this. Does that make any sense?
Yes, but I think there's something else, Victor.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually the essential problem was that I was not taught the rudiments of design. And what I'm learning from the Academy of Composition is the essential knowledge I need. That it's done, great art is done deliberately each step of the way. And it's broken down into different tasks that build upon the previous task into the next stage. And when you cross all those dots and cross those T's, you will end up with something that will be well considered, well crafted. And that's the essential piece of my life that was missing. I did so much work. I mean, honestly, it would be like 35 years of work just on gut instincts because that was all I was taught. And thank God you're teaching me the science. And the science is very different because what it comes down to, great art, it doesn't just happen. Great art is engineered.
Indeed.
And then great art is a craft. You know, whether you are crafting, you're a wood carver or whatever, it's a craft. And great art has the human spirit. And so if you're sincere in that effort, there will be something of beauty in it. And and in the end, it gives meaning to your work, to your life, to have something that is genuinely well done.
Indeed, indeed. So, so Donna, when we're doing these podcasts, there's an idea that I'm really trying to help flood the marketplace, if you will, with, and that's the idea of helping artists elevate their thinking out of this isolated, I'm alone in my studio type of thing, which there is a reality to that. And so what I'd like to know from you is, as we're moving from this isolated studio story that we tell ourselves into what I call agency. So each artist is a business, and therefore they're not an art studio, they're more of an art agency. And in that concept, they are networked or connected to other businesses and peoples and services that help facilitate their art. And so I was wondering, who are three people or businesses or services in your life, in your artistic journey, that help you, make your art happen?
I'm glad you asked, because the most essential is the Academy of Composition. It is such a wonderful community, working with a great instructor, which is you.
Me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And the other wonderful artists. For me to, let's say, spend the money on a train to go into New York City, spend all that time and hassle to connect with artists, and you don't always connect with the people that you want to, is at a great expense and effort. And it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me how efficient and effective the Academy of Composition is over the computer, where we meet once a week. We grow in different dimensions, because we're looking at, not only are we analyzing our own work, but we're looking at the progression of others. So it's much like a class in an art school that you would pay a fortune for. And then you can just go right downstairs. That's where my studio is. And without 15 minutes wasted, begin to and put into and continue on in your process. So artists need to be efficient. We need to use our resources and time well. And the most important for me is the Academy. The second one would be Ahern's Copy Center, which is, thank God, just about 3 miles from my home.
Nice.
And they help me with enlargements for my paintings, with photographic stuff. They also have an excellent service of a museum quality photography, a finished work, where they make it into files so I can make great copies. They help me with all those services. And then the third would be, I enjoy, like, maybe once a month, driving up to a very nice art store named Colorist in Shrewsbury, about a 40-minute drive. And I just enjoy walking in and getting that energy of seeing all these beautiful art supplies, and saying hello to the owners, George and Ken, who are two brothers. It's a family business who I've known for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And that's another community for me. So you're absolutely right. It is very deadening to an artist not to be connected efficiently with people that help his growth as an artist. So I get it through the class time with you and your mentorship. I get it through the, and they all know me personally. I get it through the reproduction photography guy, and I get it through the art supply man just to spend a few times talking with him. And so I don't feel so disconnected in my life. And it means a lot.
Beautiful. Awesome. So now, the most important question that I have to ask you, and after this question, then what I'm going to ask you is, how can people get in contact with you if someone would like to commission you to do a portrait of them or their family, or just connect with you as an artist to an artist? But before I ask you that, I have to ask you the most essential and most important question of all. What's one of your favorite foods?
Oh, goodness. You know, I'm glad you asked, because I think about that from time to time. Well, I love a really good eggplant rollatini.
I have no idea what in the world that is. What is?
Oh,
Do explain, please.
You have to come visit. There's this little pizzeria place in Spring Lake in my hometown where I grew up.
Uh-huh.
And I'll tell you what, they make the best eggplant rollatini. It's okay, so it's an Italian food, and it's very thinly sliced eggplant, which is rolled, I'm sure, in Italian breadcrumbs. And it's probably very quickly seared on a very hot cooking surface just to give it a little crisp to it. And then it's ricotta. Is it called ricotta, Kellen? Ricotta. A ricotta mixture of egg and maybe some Parmesan cheese. It's a soft cheese. It's put on it. It's rolled up. They have a delicious tomato sauce, and it's put probably in like a hot oven for about 20 minutes 15 minutes just to warm through. And it's just light and fluffy. It's like a ravioli, but it doesn't have the pasta. And it's so delicious with some fresh warm bread. And you feel so it's just lovely. So I'm going to say that's my very favorite. But you can't overlook the Noble hamburger cheeseburger and a glass of beer.
Indeed. Well, I'll tell you, I think in all of my life I've eaten eggplant once where I walked away and said, "Oh, that's interesting." I have never liked eggplant since I was a kid, but I promise you, when I come to the shore, we're going to go get that eggplant ravioli thingamajiggy, because the way you described it,
yeah.
I'm so down for that.
Eggplant is a funny vegetable. Sometimes it can taste bitter. Sometimes it can be mushy. There's certain qualities that, if not handled properly, it's not acceptable. In this dish, in this place, you don't even know you're eating eggplant. And I love that about it too.
Yeah, I think when you said it was thin, very sliced, I was like, oh, that's probably just enough eggplant. And I also like the idea that the pasta's not there. So I'm like, oh, there's just a whole nother thing to it.
Exactly. Like you don't walk, you enjoy it, and you don't have because we have to be careful about our diets. There's not a heaviness.
Yeah.
You don't feel like, oh, what did I just eat?
I'm gonna go to sleep now.
Yes, yeah.
Which is great about Italian food. It's interesting with the hamburger. I had a friend in Germany, and she lived there. She's from the States, and she's been there, I don't know, I would say almost 10 years now. And every time she gets homesick, she has to go eat a burger.
Yeah.
Right? It just brings her back to the States.
Oh, definitely.
And when I was living in Portugal, I totally understood what she meant, because there are moments when I was just like, I want to be home. And the fastest way to transport was just to find a good burger somewhere. And it was just like, which strange in Portugal, the food is so inexpensive, except hamburgers. They're like ridiculously expensive. It's like, what?
Is it because there's not a lot of cows?
Well, they have cows. I mean, you can buy other kinds of meat and stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't really know why. But I mean, have you ever heard of Panera Bread?
Yes.
Okay. So in a Panera, for example, you could go in and get like a half a bowl of soup, right? And a half a sandwich and a drink. And you're probably going to pay, I don't know, about $13 here. Over there, there's a place called Portuguesa, which is very much like a Panera Bread. But you go in there and they give you like this, not a cup, but like a huge bowl of soup, fresh soup, right? And a whole sandwich. Um, I used to get the one with the salmon inside. I mean, like these are like mega beautiful sandwiches, like gourmet sandwiches, and freshly squeezed orange juice, and not in a little glass, but like a big soda glass,
Right.
freshly squeezed right in front of your eyes. Boom. And you didn't pay more than $5 for the whole thing, right?
That's amazing.
But then you go across the street to and buy a burger, and you're paying, like $10 for a burger or whatever.
Right.
Now you could go to New York and probably pay, $40 for a burger, but in Portugal to pay eight to $10 for a meal like that would be kind of like crazy, So I don't know why, but for whatever reason, everything was very inexpensive except hamburgers. So
Maybe they're marketing an American icon, and they want to. I'm just guessing. They want to create the sensation that it's really like
really good or something.
good or elite. It's from Americana.
I could see that also as a tourist thing, like with people, because they know that Americans want to try a hamburger or whatever, and so they're jacking the price up. So that makes total sense. But when I do come to the Jersey Shore, we're gonna go try that eggplant thingamajiggy. And so Donna, let's wrap this up with sharing with us, how can people get in contact with you? Do you have a website?
Yeah,
email?
I gotta really bone up on the computer side of things. I have a word blog. I guess it is a blog. And I do represent myself on Facebook. Now I'm not really posting.
Portraits by Donna Ayers.
Yeah, my husband just said portraits by Donna Ayers.wordpress.com.
You can just do portraits.bydonnaayers.com.
Oh, you can just do portraitsbydonnaayers.com. I like to keep things simple. I like people just to email me or to call me and say, I have an interest in a portrait. And then I love to discuss what their thinking is, what they want, how large, how many people, do I take the photographs or I'm going to design something from their photographs. It was really very simple. I like direct contact.
So would you primarily like to work with people that you can meet with physically? Like
I've done great paintings where I never met the people, just over the phone. And
what's your process like? Let's say somebody wants to get in contact with you to do a portrait. Like, how would that relationship go? I mean, just like a basic outline so that they have an idea of what that process would be.
Sure. If I can travel or if I have to travel to their home to take photographs, I use a video camera so that I get a lot of good material. A nuance is sometimes all I want from that. I break that video down into 1/10 of a second frames. It can produce 300 photographs for one portrait. And then from there, I narrow it down to maybe just a few photographs and then proceed. Or people have photographs they want me to work from. They could be overseas. The client could be overseas. It could be in California. It's more practical for me to work from their photographs. I believe people take great photographs of their family members, and it may need some tweaking or certainly designing as I'm learning with the Academy, but there is often great material there, and we just proceed. So my process is photographs, which lead to then design, which lead to a more finished sketch concept. And then I have to do all the other design work that I'm learning through the Academy, so that it is really well designed in terms of all the different things, all the different processes that we're learning in the Academy. I'll spare you what that is.
That's beautiful. Excellent. Excellent. All right, Donna. So, well, thank you for your time. And
Thank you for asking me, Don Victor.
and thanks to Kellen for being part of the conversation as well. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
God bless.
And we'll wrap it up. All right, be well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi there, my name's Lori Calabrese. I'm an artist from Pennsylvania, and I wanted to share with you why I took Core 80 and what I got from it. So I took Core 80 because I wanted to improve my skill set as an artist, right? I wanted to get to the next level. And while my art has been well received, I feel that my art lacks a level of elegance and sophistication that I want it to have. And I knew to get to that level, I would have to improve my composition and design skills. So I enrolled in Core 80. In Core 80, we took deep dives into masterpieces. We analyzed line, brush strokes, spacing. We analyzed relationships between all the components of the piece. We started seeing the relationship, that main focal point, whether it's a face, an arm, a flower. We started seeing the relationship that has with something on the other side of the painting that is not even noticeable. And it's amazing. So we drew these relationships, and we drew and we drew and we analyzed. And you saw what you ended up seeing. What unfolded was the intent behind the masterpiece. You got into the artist's head. It was amazing. It was exciting. I felt connected to masters in a way that I never have before. And I was so excited. And now I have the skill set, right? I have the skill set. I have the concept behind it. And I can apply these techniques to my work. So now I will use this, and I will use these skills to take the story that I'm painting, right? Why am I painting a piece? What is my intent? What is the story that I'm getting across? And I will use these design concepts to lead the viewer into my story. And while the viewer, they might not be able to understand all the relationships that I created, the subconscious will put the pieces together. So I'm very excited, very happy, and I look forward to watching my work become sophisticated and elegant.
In just 30 days, the Core 80 experience teaches you to decode the intentional design underneath great masterpieces. Through video lessons, assignments, and feedback, you learn to recognize the underlying structures like thrust maps, echoes, and gamuts that give master compositions substance and gravitas. Knowing how master artists and illustrators compose their artwork unlocks your ability to give your artwork more meaning and energy. Enroll today and get a 7-day no-hassle money-back guarantee at core80.com.